When you have a wolf, you have a way. Here's your look at the new Diamond Select G.I. Joe Snake Eyes PVC diorama statue. Snake Eyes is a total mystery, but when it comes to G.I. Joe operations, he's the best there is. Snake Eyes is a natural fighter with abilities that border on the supernatural. His unique blend of skill, stealth, Arashikage ninja training, and strength of character makes him an unparalleled combination, a hybrid ninja commando who still hasn't reached the limits of his potential or his true destiny as a warrior. This gallery diorama of Snake Eyes is made of high-quality PVC and features detailed sculpting and paint applications. It was designed by Mark Wong and Tony Simone, and sculpted by Jorge Santos Souza. Just before we look at the Mute and the Mutt, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond Select, who did provide this sample of the gallery statue of Snake Eyes that we can have a look at in this video. Before we get down to looking at the details, in fact, let me bring this in. This is my tape measure. I'm going to measure to the very top of Snake Eyes, not at his head necessarily, but to where he's wielding his katana, as that's the highest point. Snake Eyes, the statue, stands 10.5 inches. 11 is up here, so it's about 10.5 inches in height. And that works out to be a statue that's 26.5 centimeters tall. Now, there is a lot going on in this statue, so carefully I pick it up. And the thing we'll start with first is the display base. I couldn't help but notice, actually, for the display base, that it's very much of a similar Star Trek logo shape. And then within that, as you can see, there's clear plastic on the underside, but the top of it is nicely frosted here in white, as it looks like Snake Eyes and Timber are walking or running through a winter wonderland. I do like the way they've actually got several tiers happening here, instead of actually just having a flat display base with a few little things like pebbles, and in this case, a few little logs. But they've actually got a few little inclines happening here, where Timber, as you can see, is leaping off the top, and Snake Eyes is leaping just next to it. Really think it's one of the better display stands we've actually gotten for these gallery statues. And there's a lot really happening here, a lot of real use of plastic. It makes for a very heavy statue as well. Getting, though, a closer look at some of the details. It's not quite a full white. In fact, when you actually see it, and with the lamp light from the studios shining on it, you can actually see it's almost got more of a pearlesque color, and not necessarily a straight solid white. In fact, the places that seem more white are the colors of the frost or the snow that's settled on the logs here. It's not quite the same white. This is just a slight shade lighter. I do like the way they're colored in the darker gray stones here. And again, all the stones lead up to the stepway here where Timber is leaping off the top. Also, just off to the side here, they've got this one, what's left at least of the tree. And there's a little bit of settled snow or almost icicles draping down from the branches. It's a really elaborate looking display base. Spin this around, one thing you can see is the way as Timber's leaping off the top here, he's left behind some settling of snow. Kind of, to be all honest, looks less like snow that's just wisted away from the top of the base. It actually kind of looks like more of an explosion. But at least they've actually used a frosted, translucent plastic. You can see a few little areas there, little sprinkles of snow, little chunks of snow, as again the wolf has leapt off the top here. Getting a closer look first at Timber of the two things, the two subjects of this statue. I really like the look at Timber quite a lot. He's very gummy, though. The gums, first of all, are very, well, the top gum, as you can see, is very wide, very long, I should say. I like the way they've sculpted the teeth, but I do think perhaps maybe the gums are a little too bright. Too bright, in fact. It actually looks a little bit more like bubble gum. Other than that, though, I think the face is really good here on Timber. He looks ferocious, but not too ferocious that Snake Eyes can't have him still as a friend. I do like the way they colored in slightly lighter areas of the fur. Mostly he's an all gray wolf, for example, but you can see like his underbelly, for example, has the more lighter colors of that light whiter gray. It does actually nicely transition into the darker colors. More dark up here, then more to a medium gray in the middle area, and then down below the lighter coloring of the gray. His tail is actually very dark, in contrast to the rest of the body here. Overall, just really like the look of Timber. And I like the way they've actually really cemented him, stabilized him here. So much of really the animal is actually further out with nothing really underneath it. It's solely just this part of the base, in fact, that's keeping Timber in place. On to then Snake Eyes. I love the look of this Snake Eyes. I've always been more of a fan of version 2 Snake Eyes than the original Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes would have had just the individual goggles, where version 2 Snake Eyes, my favorite of the two, would have had the visor. I always loved the look of Snake Eyes with the visor. Primarily, he's an all-black character, head to toe. There are a few little areas, of course, they've broken up the coloring by adding, like, for example, the clips on the tops of the grenades. Those are painted in silver. There's a buckle there done in a more lighter silver. And even the side of his visor also has a little bit of that silver as well. But primarily, he's an all-black character. But it still shines, really, as a statue with the amount of texturing that they've added to it. If you look at just his body alone, he sort of has a real kind of a cross-stitching sort of texturing that they've done to the actual surface of his costuming. Has some pockets there all around his belt area here. He has what looks to be a sheathed knife and a few possible gas grenades that he has on the sides of his leg. Of course, the main thing when you spin this around, it looks like he's got himself a semi-automatic gun, for example. He's got a few little daggers. And then sheathed on one of them, he actually has himself one stored away katana, and then the other one he's wielding in his hand. The katana itself is a more softer plastic, utilizing some nice dark gunmetal gray for the blade. The Arashikage logo, as you can see there, is just by the guard of the hilt. And he also has a matching one there onto his shoulder as well. It's a really nice looking statue. One thing I really like also is the way they've got him holding this. He's got really a firm grip of the handle of the sword in one hand, and then it looks like he's almost about to hold onto it then with the other. It's just a little bit of extra charm of having these fingers extended like this, that it doesn't just look like he's fully gripping them with both his hands. Yeah, overall, it's just a really nice looking statue. I could be a bit biased by also saying this as well because I'm a big fan of G.I. Joe. Always have, always will. And for me, Snake Eyes sits pretty high on my list of all-time favorite Joes. Snake Eyes, for me, also, version 2 is the way to go. He's not the original Snake Eyes, granted, nor in the toy, nor in the cartoon, and even in the original mini-series of the cartoon, The Masked Device, Snake Eyes was coming across more blue than black. But give Snake Eyes the classic look that he has here, with the visor across his face. Give him timber, and have the two leaping in a winter wonderland, I think are all the things that contribute to this statue being an awesome release by Diamond Select. One of the reasons why I like to do final looks at the ends of these video reviews is if I miss out on something talking about it during the course of the video, I can always wrap things up by including those additional details. Such of which you may notice right away just under the underbelly here of timber, there's a clear post stand. That stand was also inside the box, and I must have just overlooked it completely when we were looking through the figure in the review, but I wanted to add it here in final looks just to show you that it does exist, in case you're picking up the statue and you noticed it for yourself and you thought to yourself, why didn't this reviewer mention that there was that post stand? The stand honestly sits awkwardly on timber. I was trying to figure out a place where it was supposed to belong. It's obviously there just to help support the weight of timber, because we talked about this earlier. So much of timber is leaning forward. There's really nothing underneath him now until you have the post attached. But the post, I put it in where I think it's supposed to go. Attached, I had to sort of wedge it in there just above the log, and then taking the circular or half circle piece. That's the part I'm kind of attaching to his belly. I think I'm not a fan of it, to be all honest. I know it's obviously there to help the longevity of this statue, and especially the longevity of timber, so he's not going to eventually fall off. I don't think he's going to fall off. I can clearly see why, for the sake of how much he's leaning forward like that Diamond Select wanted to put some precautionary measures in there to ensure that timber wasn't going to fall. I don't really like the post, to be all honest. I think, if anything, that circular section, and I assume that that's where it's supposed to go. If instead the circular area was something that went underneath timber, if it was just simply a clear post plugging into a hole, granted there would be a hole in the belly of timber, but at least if it was just a single post and not necessarily a cupping area like this, it wouldn't stand out as much as it does. For me, I might just take the risk, take the chance, and leave it off when it comes to displaying this. Again, I don't think it's going to cause any problems to timber and his legs, especially down the road. Maybe I might just decide to put it back on, but for right now, at least, when it comes to displaying both the gallery statue of Snake Eyes and timber, I'm going to leave it off. I want to put it at least here in final looks just to show you that it does exist, and it is inside the box, but I'm going to choose for myself just to leave it off because I think it looks better without it than it does with it. As for the statue itself, I couldn't be any bit happier with this. First of all, we get ourselves version 2 Snake Eyes, which of the designs of Snake Eyes has always been my favorite. It's not the OG Snake Eyes, granted. The original Snake Eyes would have had goggles and would have been all done in blue, but this is the one I always think of right away when I think of Snake Eyes. He's all black, dressed, and then of course he's got the visor across his face. Even though he is really an all-black clad character, they did still manage to put a lot of details on this figure, not only with some additional paint, but a whole lot of cool weapons and things that he has on his body. Knives, looks like smoke grenades, daggers, regular grenades, katana blades on the back of his body as well. It's a really energetic looking Snake Eyes too. One of the things I always sing the praises for when it comes to these Diamond Select Gallery statues, first of all, they're extremely affordable. If you're looking to get into an entryway of collecting statues and you really don't want to drop several hundreds of dollars, several thousands of dollars to start getting into resin statues, start really looking in the route of gallery statues. You're going to get just as detailed looking bases and pieces, but you're going to be getting them at a much more affordable price. I mean, just to look at this alone, you may think that this statue is maybe $100, a couple of $100, but this guy actually sits under a $100 price point if you guys are looking to pick up this one for yourself. I like the look of also Timber. Admittingly, Timber with his pink gums as bright as they are, I think they're a little too bright, but I do like the way they've sculpted Timber, with or without the post that I've got right now on his underbelly. And I'm assuming that that's where it's supposed to go. I just don't like the look of it. I like the display base though. The display base is as elaborate as it is, has some really nice frosting. We don't get a lot of snow bases either. So this is also one thing that the statue does deliver that we're not used to really seeing with a lot of gallery statue releases. Overall, couldn't be any bit happier with this release of Snake Eyes as a gallery statue release. Once again, a big thank you to the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide this sample of both Snake Eyes and Timber. Collectively, they're a pair, they're a team. And it'd be fitting to have them on display as one statue together. Again, a big thank you to Diamond Select. What do you guys think of this statue? Let me know down below in the comments section. Is this one that you would consider picking up for your collection? And as a follow-up to that, let me also throw out this as a question to you, the viewing audience. What is your favorite G.I. Joe? Who's your favorite G.I. Joe character? Is it Snake Eyes? And if it is, which version of Snake Eyes do you prefer? V1 Snake Eyes, all blue with the goggles, or V2 Snake Eyes? The superior, I feel at least, all black Snake Eyes with a big black visor across his eyes. I think the visor probably could have been a little more of a lighter gray, but again, other than that, really, really happy with how the statue turned out. If you enjoyed this video, why not hit it with a like? If you also enjoyed the content you're seeing and still enjoy the content you're seeing here on this channel, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. All we have wrapped up right now, thanks for Snake Eyes and Timber. There's definitely going to be a lot more Diamond Select reviews coming your way. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.